Blake, what's going on, man?
We're
It's
back.
been a while since we've
Yeah,
talked.
missed you the past couple episodes. It's
I
nice
know.
to be back in.
I saw you put out some other episodes with who was the last guest that you talked to? It was a really interesting conversation.
Bo, yeah, the
Okay.
owner of ARC.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, I
Yep.
didn't even catch that. That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah, I've known him for a long time, and it's an awesome guy. Been cool to see his growth and being able to kind of ride along on those coattails with the art company, and
Sure,
yeah, just a good friend.
that's awesome. Well, it's always good to catch up and kind of see how the state of things are in
Yeah.
the financial world, the real estate world. You had sent me some documentation right before we started this recording, so I'm curious, what is that about, and what's
Yeah.
going on in the world right now?
Matt, just kind of, it's interesting because no one's got a crystal ball. No one knows what direction we're going, but just looking at where the real estate market is today and then where is it headed is, the multi-million-dollar question. Everything is, or I don't want to say everything, but a lot of things is being driven by where rates are and where we think rates are going to go. And as we've alluded to a couple times when we had Travis on, the Fed raising and lowering rates and changing or not raising does indirectly affect those mortgage rates. But and right now we're in a spot where they may have one more raise by the end of the year. They're alluding to they might. And so people that don't have to buy are saying, well, maybe I need to wait to see if they actually do it or not. Or rates are still 7%. So people who maybe were waiting to buy that, what's going to happen on the Fed side, how's that going to affect mortgage rates? They're saying rates are still 7% now. Are they going to go up more if the Fed bumps out a little bit more? Are they going to come back down? So a little bit of uncertainty. Overall, we still just don't have inventory. And so I think we still have kind of the same problem where we have a lack of inventory, and we still have a seller's market. And we'll throw this little sheet up I sent you to kind of talk through what that looks like. But we're in a unique spot.
Yeah.
Still a lot of activity, a lot of stuff going on, but a unique spot where it's like almost like a hurry up and wait for those who don't have to buy right now.
Yeah, I was curious. Just it looks like looking at that sheet that you sent me, Americans sitting on tremendous equity. So,
Dude, this is like the biggest talking point of, are we going to go into a recession, and how does that affect housing? Are we going to see foreclosures? And I think this chart right here shows, or gives you the answer of no, we're not going to see a lot of foreclosures because of how much equity homeowners have. And so just kind of looking at that top one and that lighter green bubble, but mortgage homes with more than 50% equity, meaning they owe less than half of what the value of the house is. And that's 30%. So a third of homes in America have less than or more than 50% equity, which is huge. So like we have a recession, housing prices drop even 20%, which is massive. There's still 30%, a third of the homes in America are still not underwater, which I think speaks volumes to, and that was not the case. I don't have the numbers, but for 07, 08, when everything, that was not the case then. There was not that much equity as there is today. Kind of following that down, 30 to 50% of equity, you've got 21%, right? So it's still, fifth of the market there. And then 0 to 10% is just like 2% of the market, right? But mortgage homes with negative equity is 0.12%. So people who
are
underwater,
already underwater on the mortgage. Okay.
is 0.1% of the
So
market.
very low. Very low.
Yeah, very low.
That's awesome.
Which why would it be? The market's only increased for the past really 12 years, right? So that number is to be expected. But this is another one of the biggest ones is zero mortgage, own it free and clear. It's 39%.
39% of Americans own their house outright.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
And so so when you think of that, like one is a realtor, but also
are you one of them?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
No, because debt's so cheap, right? And so we can come back to that because I think that's an interesting talking point. But thinking of it as an investor as well, you go out and say, well, I want to buy your house, and you own it free and clear. I could go borrow money as an investor 8, maybe 9%. Or what if we could work out like a seller financing? I give you 5%. It's a win for me. If you don't need the cash to move wherever you're going, then maybe that's a steady stream of income at 5% for you. So I think it's an avenue that investors can take advantage of as well, knowing that there's so much equity out there. And you can do that with the 30 to 50% or 50% plus of equity stakes that people have. You can do hey, I'll give you the bank's going to cover 50% of this purchase, but would you hold back the other 50% as a seller finance? So it's an interesting piece to say, like, wow, over half. I mean, you got 39% that is owned free and clear, and then another 30% that is owned with more than 50% of equity. So you've got 60% of the market. Am I doing that math right? 70% of the market. 70% of the market has the ability to seller finance. I mean, I guess all of them do, but like.
But to bring it home back to everybody's likes to stoke fears of recession and stuff. You don't see a housing crisis looming, kind of like the one we had, X number of years ago, where a lot of people were underwater on their mortgage.
I don't think we'll see that just because there's so much equity in the market now.
A little bit of good news. So
that's great.
Yeah, that's great news. Yeah.
It's great. It's interesting to see all the projections from people way smarter than me, from the National Association of Realtors and the mortgage groups from a national level and economists saying, hey, we're going to see, and it's a guarantee as much as they can guarantee anything in the future, we're going to see rates come down. When, that's the big question, but by the end of the year, they expect it to come down a little bit from 7 to maybe 6, 6.5. By the end of next year, 2024, they're talking about 4.5 to 5, which is huge. And think about what that's going to do, supply and demand, right? Demand's going to spike back up because the people that are waiting on the sidelines of saying, hey, I don't have to move, so I'm going to wait till rates come down. When they do come down, what's it going to happen to? And it's going to skyrocket. Supply is just going to get compressed even more. And it's still compressed 12 years ago. And
so it's still going to be a seller's market, even though rates get better.
And prices will just go right back up.
Right back up.
Yeah, which will really affect this even more. It's going to be more equity. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the next 6 to 12 months from that market cycles. Another really cool metric that I thought was super interesting, and I'm using this a lot with my sellers right now, kind of setting expectations. So active homes. So homes for sale, Jefferson and Shelby County, which is pretty much like the greater Birmingham area. And what I like to look at is average days on market. So things that are currently on market, not sold yet today, of all of those homes, which there are 2,846 homes listed, on average, they've been on market 49 days.
49 days.
Right. Okay. And think about a year and a half, 2 years ago, things were selling day one, weekend, just immediately.
7 days, 11 days.
Yeah. So looking back and saying, all right, today, if I go back and say how many sold homes this year, got 11,489, so almost 11,000 homes have sold this year. The average days on market for those homes up to this point, 24. So what that tells me is things are sitting on the market longer, right? Things that are currently on the market have been there an average of 49 days. Things that were listed earlier this year sold an average of 24 days.
Now, is that to be expected just with the seasons and being summertime and stuff like that?
Yes and no. I think coming into the fall, things historically do slow down. They haven't the past 3 years just because it's been crazy.
Sure.
But I think rates have shown their face in the sense of slowing people down on the buy side.
Okay.
And so market absorption, which is a metric we use just to say how much inventory versus demand, supply and demand there is. I lost it. So it's 2.9 months of inventory, right? So in kind of a break even between seller market and buyer market is about 6 months, right? So we're about half that at 3 months of inventory.
Okay.
And that's slowed up a little bit. It was compressed even more, closer to like 1 month of inventory for the past 2 years. And so we're still in a very strong seller's market. Anything less than 6 months is a strong seller's market.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was like wondering what the grand scheme of like, if you go all over the country, what is considered a normal amount of time for a home to sit on the market, averaged over the, I know every part of the country is different, but you know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah, so right now I don't have
anything less than 6 months.
Less than 6 months is considered a seller's market.
An incredibly long time.
I know, right? Because we've been exposed to, if it doesn't sell week one,
it'll be sold by next weekend. Yeah, that's right.
It is. So looking at this and saying, all right, well, in Jefferson County, it's 49 days. It's almost 2 months here, which is a little bit higher than just your averages. I go to a seller, so I've got a couple listings now. One of mine in Avondale, that flip is still just sitting there.
I was curious,
yeah,
that was still on the market.
And I got to remind myself, as I've got to remind my sellers, we're not in the market where things sell immediately anymore. Okay. And here's the data to back it up. It's not just Blake's opinion and his very tiny exposure to the market and the few sales we do a year. Here's the data for counties that are big in Birmingham. And so just realizing, and when we go to a listing appointment, we say, look, here's the data. We're going to price it right. We're going to make sure it's in a good condition. We're in a good area. We need to prepare that it's going to take 2 months to sell. And that's just kind of the new normal we're in.
Setting those expectations so you don't have clients that are like, my realtor sucks. What's going on? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's cool that you're able to back that up because, you know, I'm sure there are a lot of realtors out there that maybe just don't take the time to dig up that information and maybe just kind of say, well, you know, it's just the way it is.
It's taken a while. Yeah, and it's, you know, I always want to have something to go back on, right? So it's like they're calling me saying, hey, I'm frustrated, like what's going on? And instead of just not having the data or knowledge, I don't know. And they're like, well, you're not doing open houses, or we didn't take out a newspaper article, or, you know, it's like, no, this is where we're at, which I've done before I, you know, like very early in my career. Because the seller asked me, like I literally paid, I don't know how much it was for a newspaper article. But now knowing and having this data and using it as a tool to just set those expectations and kind of on the buyer side, you know, that flips a little bit to where we're still in a seller's market per market absorption, but buyers have leverage now. And once rates come down, prices go back up, all the buyers enter the market again, it's going to be like a year or two ago when buyers had zero leverage. You had to make offers, no inspection, you know, take away your financing contingency, and just have a lot more risk as a buyer. Where right now, you've got some leverage. And so
I guess you kind of have to weigh the, you know, maybe a higher rate, but more leverage versus a, you know, try to strike gold and get a lower rate. You know, you have to, kind of my experience was, hey, we bought when rates were great, but it was a challenge, you know, being able to get a home. A lot of competition, a lot of people trying to buy homes. I think we only put in offers on 2 homes, but one of the first ones we did, somebody else swooped in. And nothing worse, you know. But it worked out.
We're not seeing that as much. We're seeing it some. I listed one last weekend that we had 2 offers, and it was, you know, highest and best by Sunday. So we're still seeing that a little bit, but not. You know, I had 3 listings go live last week. Only one that happened on.
Okay.
And I think we're priced correctly. I think we're doing all the right things, but it's just, hey, instead of all 3 happening, it was just one doing that.
So take home point, if you're looking to buy a home, it may be better to move on that now versus maybe 3 months from now or 6 months.
So overall, I think my opinion is yes on that, but not just to give a realtor answer to say buy now. It comes down to what your goals are, but just kind of think through. You can't refinance the purchase price in the future of the house. Like once you buy it, you're locked in. You can refinance the rate. So if rates come down next year to 4.5, then you can always refinance, capture a lower rate. But you can't a year from now say, oh, if prices drop 20 grand, let me just knock that 20 grand off my mortgage. Like you're stuck with it, right? But today you can negotiate that purchase price. Where arguably maybe a year ago you couldn't. Maybe a year from now you can't, just depending on where the market goes. And so I've said this for the past couple of weeks, but don't buy just to buy. But if you're going to buy in the next 6 months, 12 months anyways, this could be a great time to do it because you can get in and maybe get, you know, cash from the seller to go towards your closing costs. You can keep more cash in your pocket, or, you know, if cash isn't a big deal for you, but having, you know, a lower monthly payment is, then, you know, negotiating that purchase where, you may lock in at a 7% rate, but they're not going to be at 7 forever. Right. And just like my investing piece, don't buy with it not working financially today, but hoping that it does with lower rates later. Like that's a bad financial decision. But if you can make it work today comfortably and it fits your budget, then it's just a bonus when they do come down later.
Well, that's cool. Going back to the data, we kind of had an interesting point versus, you said a lot of people own 50% of their home, or all, you know, the number, I forget the number you said, most people, or a large portion, own their home outright. Should that be a goal for most people? Just, I got to get my house paid off and just own it free and clear.
That's a great question, man.
Because I feel like you're a very financially literate person. Obviously, we have this podcast. I feel like if you wanted to, you could have your home paid off, but I think that's more of a decision not to do it, and I'm curious as to why that is.
Yeah, I don't think there's a black and white answer.
Maybe not.
Right, and I never give you a straight answer, right?
Yeah, well, that's good. Because, you know, like earlier, should you buy now or not? Yeah.
So I think it depends on your goal. So should you pay your house off if you have the ability to, or should it be your number one goal to pay it off before you attack anything else or invest? And the answer for me is no.
Okay.
I think we've got like a 3.5% interest rate on my home. That's really cheap money for me. So if I spent, I forget what we owe in our house, but if I took a chunk of cash to pay that off, or if I just funneled it all my or extra income towards paying that off, then I don't have that extra income or chunks of cash to go invest. And basically, it's what I'm saying when I do that, and this is how it works in my head, is I don't think I can take this money and go get better than a 3.5% return on it, which for me is completely false. Like I can go and get 20, 30, 40% return on any investment that I make, or that's the goal. And so if I can either, pay on my house at 3.5% rate and use this money to go generate way more than that, then why would I pay it off?
Why would you? Yeah.
Now there's some risk in that, right? Because I owe, if everything just crashes and burns and I lose everything and I still owe, $1,200, whatever my monthly payment is on my house, then yeah, I'm stuck paying that note. For me, and again, I'm more comfortable with risk than probably a lot of people. I know I can go. I think my mortgage payment it's low. It's like $1,300 a month. I know if I lose everything, I can go swing a hammer or work at Starbucks and make $1,300
and pay your mortgage.
Right. So it's for me, it's kind of a no-brainer. Like I can hustle and I can make that happen.
Yeah.
And so and that's how kind of I look at everything. What's worst case scenario, and can I still make it work? Now I've got one of my best friends is he's a financial advisor, and he agrees with the principles, but for his family and just the comfort, and they don't want the risk, they just say, look, we're going to feel more comfortable as a family paying our house off and just having no debt on it. Once we do that, now we'll take our passive income and go and invest in real estate. He does a lot of other investing, but into real estate. And that's his comfort level. And so that's the right answer for him.
Right.
So it's just, I think it's case by case and what your goals are.
Yeah, that's interesting because a lot of people I think would agree with you. At least that's what I've seen as far as like the little, it's crazy the ads and stuff I get now after doing this.
Talking too much real estate.
But the little TikTok, snippets and stuff. And a lot of people I would say, hey, take this money that you're going to use to pay your house off and do this with it, do that with it. It's way better to invest with that money versus just the comfort of knowing that you own your home. But it is cool to hear somebody else who's also financially literate, I would imagine, saying, no, I have my house completely paid off. I think a lot of people would. I know I would feel great knowing that my house is paid for. And one of my coworkers, he made that a goal. And he has some other issues going on, but he knows at the end of the day that he's going to have his house no matter what because it's paid off, other than like property and stuff. Pretty cool. Pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, Blake, if you had the money to pay your house off right now, which I imagine you might somewhere, would you do it?
It's not a smart decision. It's a bad financial decision because I can take that money, go invest it, and make arguably 10x what the interest rate on my house is. So I think that's a bad idea.
So you would not like the comfort of knowing that you own your home outright?
No.
You seem to be, you've said it yourself, you're a little more comfortable with risk than most people.
I'll take a little more risk, and I know I can hustle and make that mortgage payment. If everything else falls apart and I lose everything, I can go hustle and make that mortgage payment, and I'm comfortable with the risk associated with keeping that payment.
Interesting take on that. Well, moving on, man. What's going on in the rest of your world with ARC and everything?
Yeah, man. ARC's growing like crazy. We had a couple agencies, kind of some bigger global names locally in this market close shop. And I think that is a derivative of the market slowing down to where you've got kind of those quote unquote part-time agents just not really producing. And those offices, I don't know the true answer of why they closed. This is kind of my opinion of those closing down. And so ARC has absorbed a lot of those agents and a lot of big time agents.
Really?
And so it's growing like crazy. We just opened an office. We talked about this on the podcast with Bo, but just opened an office down 280. We've bought out a place in Huntsville. We've got a place in Orange Beach. Montgomery's growing. And so,
hey, the beach market. That'd be
yeah,
fun.
yeah. So I think Bo said, I forget, 14 or 15 offices in the state right now, and the largest independent brokerage in the state.
So I guess there's still a lot going on, even though there's not a lot of inventory. There's still a lot for agents to be doing, I guess. And maybe this is a dumb question, but if a lot of people are not really interested in selling at this time right now, and the inventory is low, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
playing golf, we're going to lunch.
That's what real estate agents do, right? That's the
all we do
lifestyle.
anyways.
That's what everybody wants. Yeah.
Well, you got to think about it. So, just looking at this stat through the end of August, there were over 11,000 homes sold. I mean, to be in the top, this is actually, be in the top 1% of agents in Birmingham, you need to sell 40 homes a year. So think about that. I mean, 40, like what's 11,000 divided by 40? I don't know that math real quick, but that's a lot of different realtors.
That's still a lot, yeah.
Right? And so, and I don't know how many were sold in 08 or 09, but it was in the thousands. And so to be successful and you don't have to have a surplus of inventory and work. You just have to be great at what you do and what you focus on, and you can still succeed in any market. And so I think it's important for an agent to carve out what their market is, be the expert in it. And like for me, it's Bluff Park and Hoover. That's my market. Regardless of where the market goes cycle-wise, I still want to be number one in that market. So somebody's selling. Someone's getting relocated. Someone inherits a house. There's always houses selling in any market because it has to happen. I want them to think of me.
Yeah.
And so, I'm affected, on the top end of like actually how much business I do, but from a security standpoint, I want to try to build a brand and build a business that, its worst case is not falling apart and it's not costing me, I'm not losing money.
So, just out of my own curiosity, how many homes? I know you have a team under you. What's your average, and what does this year look like for you?
Yeah, this year's a little lower, so we'll probably do around 50 this year.
Okay.
Past 2 years, we did maybe 50 to 60. Past 2 years, we did like 65 to 80, somewhere in that range.
Closings.
Yeah.
Okay. That's awesome.
So a great number, right?
Yeah.
Awesome number. I'm super thankful and grateful for all my people, but I have seen that, as this data has shown, and like I said, that top end, like that extra 20 sales, like I've seen that kind of drop off a little bit. And again, I like the extreme ownership model. So how can I succeed and keep that, or even growth? How can I continue to sell more regardless of market conditions? And what is that in my business that I can execute in to make sure that happens?
Yeah.
That's $1 million question, right? We're working that out every day, trying to get bigger and better.
Well, you mentioned extreme ownership. I always like to close out each episode, or at least one episode, and kind of see, you reading anything interesting lately?
Yeah, Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits.
It's a great book just about little chunks, like how do you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. Just and habit stacking. So, what's a good example?
This is not a real estate book. This is just more
like general, really life, business.
Yeah.
But it's got a lot of different principles on how to create habits or get rid of bad habits. And so, like smoking is a great example of like, okay, I want to quit smoking. So what are you doing to be able to quit smoking? It's hard to be a runner and a smoker. So maybe you pick up running, right? Or it's hard to quit smoking when everyone in your life smokes, right?
Sure.
So maybe you should shift on who you're hanging. So it just talks about like, what are the little things you can do to change your habits and make them for the better. So
I guess it kind of falls in line with like goal setting and stuff, but more like just setting up yourself with habits to be more successful.
Yeah, and I think those work hand in hand. What are my goals and what are the habits that are going to help me get there?
Sure.
And so it's doing kind of a life assessment at first and saying, okay, well, if I want to sell $30 million of real estate this year, then what are the habits that I'm doing that are prohibiting that? And what are the ones that I need to pick up that will facilitate that? And then kind of breaking those down and then really saying, okay, why am I doing them? Like, am I putting that habit next to, like, let's say my habits, I want to get in shape, or I want to be able to do 300 push-ups at a time. Well, anytime before I pick up my phone to look at social media, I've got to do 10 push-ups, right? So something like that. So when you're like, okay, there's something I don't really want to do with a reward at the end of it, and kind of incentive, you like kind of hang the carrot for yourself, then you just kind of get into that. So.
Atomic Habits. Okay, I'm going to put that on my reading list. That's good. I actually went back and was reading Extreme Ownership again. And looking for another book. So
it's so good.
That's Blake,
and I'm also reading one, I forget the author's name, but it's what I think about when I run or when running. And it's just kind of story form. The guy's just a really good author. There's so far nothing like profound I've gotten out of it. It's just a good read.
Sometimes, I started reading, I read Jimmy Buffett's Salty
Oh.
Piece of Land. And,
I haven't read that.
Right after he passed away,
Yeah.
I'd had it sitting on my shelf forever, and so I picked it up. And
Is it good?
it's just a good little fiction book,
Yeah.
It's,
I may have
very
to get that
easy
from you.
reading, and it's really cool.
I may have to borrow that. I'm
Yeah.
gonna try that.
So I've got a couple of cool books about they all have kind of a beach theme. One was a really good one. I know we're getting off subject here a little bit, but it's called Pirate Hunters.
Okay.
And it's about modern day people searching for treasure. And
Really?
it's pretty interesting, and the modern technology they use, the laws around stuff that you find, and it's about these two guys that are trying to find one of the last remaining known pirate ships that went down. That also had, like the Spanish, what do they call them? Spanish galleons or whatever, where they were transferring money.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot to
That's
it.
cool.
And I don't know what the laws are now, but at the time of writing that book, they were saying that it's changing as far as like the stuff you find, you have to give back to whoever the sovereign country that it belongs to, versus like before that, you could actually keep it.
Yeah.
And
That kind of takes away the drive to find it. Right?
Yeah,
Or do they buy it
like
from
people
you?
that they're more interested in the notoriety, because it's, to find something of value, even if it goes to a museum, to have your name attached to it.
Cool,
So it's not really about getting rich anymore,
Yeah.
even though it used to be. And so they kind of talk about that. And they talk about some of the guys that made millions, made fortunes that were just either got really lucky or they were just super driven and were able to locate using very little information, going and digging through archives at libraries about these old Spanish ships that went down and trying to geolocate where they are, and the technology they use to find it, and then they have to dive down and dealing with weather, and it's pretty crazy. And so,
Did you ever
it's
watch
called
that?
Pirate Hunters. Yeah.
One thing that I've tried to do that I haven't been great at, but forming the habit, kind of basing off that Atomic Habits book, is instead of sitting in my bed and playing on my phone until I fall asleep, is have a nonfiction, just kind of fun book there. And so, and next to my bed, and so I've got the conscious choice, pick up the book, and so that makes it easier. But another thing that I did really well beginning this year that has fallen off in the past month is at the end of each day writing down 3 wins from the day, and then writing down three wins that I would like to happen tomorrow that would make tomorrow a win.
That's something you've been doing for a while.
I have,
right?
but
lately,
like
maybe
the
not.
past 6 weeks, I haven't been doing it. And again, extreme ownership, I just got to put a better habit around it. The book hasn't been in front of me to where at night I just forget about it. Now we just turned our last extra space, which was my office / guest bedroom, into a nursery. And so I lost my desk, I lost my office. And so
congratulations. I
Thank
don't
you,
know if we talked about that, but you guys are expecting.
We are,
Okay.
New Year's Eve.
Family's growing, so.
Little boy, New Year's Eve. So,
Awesome. Yeah.
Party time in the hospital. So, so now my office is literally my bag. And so everything's in there, and it's just not in front of me. And so, like, the habit would be, hey, maybe when I get home for the day, that book comes out and goes next to my bed, right? And that would be a habit. It's like, okay, I see it. It's easy to do if I remember to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cool. Well, yeah, we need to have a book swap or
Yeah.
something, because I got recently into audiobooks, and that's a good way to passively. I don't really consider that reading. You'll hear people say, "Oh, I read 10 books last month," and it's like, well, how'd you
That's
just
impressive.
listen to it? Yeah. But it is a passive way to consume a book or knowledge.
Yeah,
just
I
when
haven't
you're
pulled that
driving or
trigger yet, and it's probably in my future, one, because I'm running out of space in my house for new books, but two, I can't consume at the rate that I buy them.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
And so I've got 40 books, and I'm like, okay, that's in line, but then I'll hear something on a podcast, and I got to order that one too.
Yeah.
But I drive, my truck is my office, and so I'm always listening to podcasts.
Yeah, check out audiobooks. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it'll happen.
Well, man, it's awesome to catch up and kind of get a finger on the pulse of what's happening as far as the market and everything. And I think the take-home point is things are looking good.
Things are looking good.
For especially if you're a seller.
Yeah.
But also, it was kind of cool to hear that if you are a buyer, you also have some things you can do to kind of put yourself in a better position to buy as well. So that's cool.
Absolutely. It's good to see you. Good to be
yeah,
back.
man, it's good to catch up. So, all right, man, until next
Until
time.
next time.